Hello, welcome to our last week of Crime and Punishment. So I'm excited for this week. We're doing something different. We haven't done anything like this so far in the course. We're going to do a mini research project. And in doing so, we're going to explore really richly the ground of this book, the context, what was around it, and why is it set in the place that it is? Or rather, how is it? All right, so for that, we'll take a look at the setting strands. In AP Lit, they would like us to, and we would like to, identify and describe the specific textual details that convey or reveal a setting, and to see, down a bit, describe the relationship between a character and a setting. We're going to do both things. Your big assignment for the week is an organization paragraph set, 2 paragraphs, on each of these strands. One, identifying some component of setting that you'll do research on, and 2, exploring the way that your research topic shows up in the book. How does it reveal itself between the character, the narrator, the narrative itself? The knowledge pieces here are in black, so the setting includes the social, cultural, and historical situation during which the events of the text occur. That's a really broad statement. I think too often we limit setting to just the time and the place. St. Petersburg, 1860s. But we know that our settings are so much more than just neat factoids. We are immersed in cultural viewpoints, in philosophies, in trends in thinking, in political moments. And all of those things are also true of St. Petersburg in the 1860s. And we know because of Crime and Punishment's philosophies that it is critical to Dostoevsky and then to Raskolnikov that we as readers engage with some of those things. So we're going to try our best to identify it. So I'm here on the second sentence to identify the setting. We're going to scan for not the first thing, imagery that points to the setting and its connotations, but the second, allusions to historical figures who inform the thinking of the text. We did the first, imagery, with Lord of the Flies. It's a critical thing to do, and I am not dismissing it. It would be fascinating to do with Crime and Punishment, but it probably wouldn't require much outside research from us. We would sit and immerse ourselves in that metaphorical language, and we would try to make great connections between the imagery that we see and what it's doing to the characters. But we're not going to do that. This time, we're going to move to that second piece, which is understanding its cultural framework. And then we'll apply it. So how does this show up in the characters? Any character, but you might find yourself especially drawn to Raskolnikov, our protagonist. So this is a bit of a deviation or a tangent from the AP Literature curriculum. They cannot expect you on that exam to know anything beyond what is in front of you. It is a very new criticism-minded exam. It is democratic. It does not privilege your background knowledge. But in college, you will absolutely be expected to do deep research on the topics that intersect with your classes. So I want to give you that taste as well. This is an upper level English class. A lot of you are going to be headed to a 4-year college soon or soonish, and I want you to feel prepared for what that could be. So we're going to consider the temporal place of the book. A high-quality piece of literature will be both temporal and timeless. Setting is the work of uncovering the temporal, the time and the place and everything that means. Here is me in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I'm using this as a thought exercise just to hammer in this point. The setting includes a social, cultural, and historical situation during which the events of the text occur. So if I were to just look up the time and place of where I am, Charlottesville, Virginia, I would get this from Wikipedia maybe. It's a central Virginian city nestled by the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's home to UVA, which was founded by Thomas Jefferson. Those are neat factoids. But it wouldn't necessarily carry the day for the kinds of topics I would want to explore in a narrative. Instead, I might pass allusions to Nakia Walker, our mayor, Heather Heyer, the counter-protester who was killed in the Unite the Right rally here in August of 2017. I might reference Mark Short or Nicole Hannah-Jones, who were both brought to UVA recently to talk and to be employed. I might bring in CRT or transubstantiation or vocational schools. All of these things are allusions to my moment in this place. And a good narrative is not going to over-explain those things. It will not use paragraphs of exposition to give you the backstory. It will trust you as the reader to do research where research is necessary, or to simply inhabit that place as deeply as you can to understand more clearly what the book is trying to tell you. And all of that is setting in the richest possible way. So we are going to do this with Crime and Punishment. We're going to explore the values of the time and place of St. Petersburg, how it intersects with Raskolnikov. Our job is to explore the cultural allusions, philosophical underpinnings of the narrative, so as better to understand its complexities. Indeed, in a book this epic, you will only get half of what you can get without a little bit of outside research. So we're looking for philosophical, theological, geographical, political, and historical topics. This is all really the same as what a college professor might ask you to do, but they might ask you to explore the lenses of academia. I've made this document and shared it with you before. It's yours. You can have it. I made it for you. And it's just a collection of different theoretical frameworks to apply to a text. And so many of them are simply asking you to deeply understand a setting. Conduct that, in the end, historical research that spills into all of these other disciplines. All right, so I've done some research myself to figure out what our research should be. You may absolutely choose a topic that is not on my list, but for your creative analysis assignment, I want you to pick a topic, probably one from my list, and sign up for it. 1 student per topic, please, and then begin conducting your research. There is no formal creative analysis task that you'll post for everyone to see. Instead, your analysis this week is just all moving towards your organization assignment. So let's take a look at the topics really briefly. Got this open in a few places. My model will be the Petrushevsky circle, but you can see all of these others that might be really interesting to you. As you research, you can already begin considering these possible research questions. What do you want to take up in your research? You probably will only have time for one question. And then your second paragraph will be about applications to the novel, so you can take a look at what I've decided could be a good question to frame that work as well. So signing up, considering those questions, and then beginning your research. So we're only hoping to make some initial connections. We're not writing a 10-page paper on this. I want you to gain a better understanding of a single topic and use this as a model for when we do have a longer research paper, which we will. So 2 sources is enough for this. 1 even would be enough as long as it's a high quality source. It also means you can use Wikipedia as a source because we're just touching these topics. In general, don't do that. And when we do a longer research paper, you won't be able to do that. But for this, it's perfectly appropriate. I had a professor in college who said, Wikipedia is where all great searches begin and none end. And that is true. There's even a really cool article on Wikipedia about how you shouldn't use them as a source. They're very self-aware people, those Wikipedia publishers. So you can use it for this, and I'll show you what that can look like for this paper. Again, the organization assignment. You're going to have this in mind, so researching with the end in mind. It's going to be to write 2 and only 2 polished claim paragraphs that contain quotes from your research and quotes from Crime and Punishment. They include citations and in-text citations, and they contain a central claim, just like a claim paragraph normally would. So as you take notes, you should clip interesting quotes, you should note the citation and where you got it, and then you should begin forming your claims. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a moment, but just to reiterate, you don't have to post anything for your creative analysis. The creative analysis is going to happen as you're reading and researching. Just research, take notes, and do so please in your big Google Doc so that those notes are visible to me. I do understand that it might be difficult for me to follow your notes because good note taking is personal, fluid, nonlinear, but I want to be able to see it nonetheless. And again, there's nothing to post. You're going to notice this week there's the one, the organization post available. So let's say I picked the Petrushevsky Circle. This was an intellectual discussion group in St. Petersburg in the 1840s, and Dostoevsky was imprisoned and nearly executed for his participation with the group. So as I looked through documents, as I tried to understand what this was and why this might have been important to Dostoevsky, this is what I found. So I did go to Wikipedia. I had to. I didn't know what it was. What am I going to read? A scholarly journal about something I don't even understand? You have to start somewhere. And I had not heard of it. So what I found are some basic notes about it that were really interesting to me. Dostoevsky joined because he really believed in the equality of the people. He didn't see anything conspiratorial about them, and in fact, there wasn't anything conspiratorial about them. It's just that they discussed some hot-button ideas. But then, in 1848, there were a wave of revolutions across Europe. And Nicholas I, Tsar Nicholas, was more suspicious of these kinds of intellectual discussion groups. And in the end, 22 members were arrested and threatened to be killed. They were lined up in a firing squad, blindfolded. And at the last moment, they were reduced, their sentence was reduced to hard labor, so they were saved. But really, they were tortured. One of them broke down in that moment and never quite recovered his sanity. Dostoevsky writes about it a lot, was very preoccupied by this experience. So I have a couple of initial thoughts, my claims, and you don't have to organize yours in this way. This is just my mind at work. I initially thought, okay, I could discuss Raskolnikov's impression of Siberia, the prison, as a link to all of this. That could be an interesting way to apply these things. Or I could look into the philosophies themselves. So I decided I need to do a little bit of research about that. I went to JSTOR, which I'm pushing here because JSTOR has 100 articles you can read a month for free. So you might not have a JSTOR account. That is fine. They try to be accessible. And I found this wonderful article. It's about 10 pages, 20 pages, called The Philosophical Opinions of the Petrushevsky Circle. It's perfect for what I want. So I explored it, I read it, and I found these wonderful quotes that I've clipped here. The source of man's suffering, the cause of his privations, is lack of understanding of nature's laws. Every being in nature is the resultant of all the forces of nature, and the forcible or premature annihilation of any being in nature destroys the general harmony of the world. It's fascinating to me because I know Raskolnikov kills 2 women. So I wonder how I can make Raskolnikov or Rodya's actions reckon with the philosophy of Petrushevsky, which surely is something that Dostoevsky would have known. All right, so my initial notes, maybe even enough because I'm only generating 2 paragraphs. And that is your creative analysis assignment. This is new. Let me know if you're confused. I'm really excited to see what you find because these topics, I don't know everything about these things either. So I'm really excited for us to all find out something together. And I'll take our organization assignments at the end of the week and make a giant paper out of them that will serve as our model for the longer paper that we're going to do later on this spring. All right. Thanks.